Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
So Cassie, what was your pick?
My pick was Echo and the Bunnymen, Porcupine.
Crocodiles.
Porcupine. I said Porcupine.
Oh my
Oh.
You brought Crocodiles. Can we talk about
you know
Porcupine?
what?
Talk about, yeah.
We're gonna talk about
Porcupine is the one that I would probably prefer to talk about.
Okay.
But this
good.
is also an amazing album.
That
That is
Amazing
also an
record.
amazing album.
But yes, I agree. Porcupine is the one.
And that was their first.
Yes.
Crocodiles was their first, and then
Well, I
so
think
this
we've
is their
talked
third.
about this in previous episodes. The first record you hear by a band might be the record that's your
I
favorite.
know. And that's also part of this whole discussion.
Okay,
And
so
his
what was the
his
first
vocals.
record you heard by Echo and the Bunnymen, though, before we talk about it?
Maybe we get in. Let's start talking
Talk about that
it,
one?
and I'll
'Cause I
tell
can
you
say
about
mine.
my
Let's say,
relationship. with
welcome
Echo.
to
Three
three
on
on
the
the
Ones
Ones and
and
Twos.
Twos.
My name's Tom.
My name's
Cassy.
Cassie.
I'm James.
James, thank you, Trackside Tavern. Brian
Thank you,
Colantino, love you.
Trackside.
Hey, Matt. What's up, guys? PBR, Jameson, Echo and the Bunnymen.
Echo and the Bunnymen, Porcupine.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cassie's pick. Here
My
we go.
pick.
Thank you.
I love this band.
Flower Child.
This is your favorite of the Echo and the Bunnymen album.
I would
would
go
you
with
say?
I think I would probably say that. Yeah.
Overall.
I mean, it's kind of. It's not the first one I heard. So now, do you want to talk about this before I go into my first one that I heard,
No,
or how I kind of actually got interested in the?
This is your show. This is your floor.
Okay.
Floor is
The
yours.
first one I heard, so I was living, when I was like 14, 15, I was living in Wisconsin. My mom was in the military. She got transferred to Northern California, which turned out to be, such a blessing because in a smaller town, you only have access to the things that maybe you know.
You're absolutely right.
If you know somebody or have
Yeah.
like an older sibling or something.
Yeah.
So I moved to
Pre-internet,
Northern.
of course, so there's no, you can't
Pre-internet,
look it up.
no,
You can go to the
right?
library.
This is the 80s.
Yeah.
So the best.
This is the 80s.
This is the 80s and mid 80s. So the first time.
Get it clear here.
Yeah, get clear, not the early, because I wasn't. Don't date me. Don't age me.
By the way, I was going to say you look wonderful.
Thank you. And right around that time, so moving to Northern California, definitely people that had more access to it. Plus, 120 Minutes came around, which
Cable
became
TV, here we go.
120 Minutes on MTV was really
Huge.
what got me, into a lot. So I saw the video for Lips Like Sugar because the Grey album, the self-titled,
Sure, yeah.
which later, after going back through some of their stuff, obviously wasn't. I mean, it's special to me because I have so many memories with it. But this is the album then that I listened in the
like
past.
The vocally strong, what a beautiful singer Ian McCulloch is.
He is an amazing singer.
And delivery and execution. So
He
that's
has a
probably
presence.
his strongest vocal. He's got some presence on this record.
He has, what I think is, because he does on Crocodiles too. I mean, his voice is
And it's
definitely.
okay to disagree with me. You can disagree with me.
His voice, I think his lyrics definitely evolved more.
Big Leonard
in
Cohen
Porcupine.
fan, Ian McCulloch.
He
and
is
we
a
love Leonard Cohen here on
huge
3 on the
Leonard,
Ones and Twos.
huge
Yeah.
Leonard Cohen fan, and so I really think that they came more into their sound on this after listening through the other albums, like Crocodiles, which I was listening to on the way here, and I love Crocodiles.
I mean,
but
his
it's
solo
just,
record, I think it was Candyland.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I mean,
Candleland, yeah.
Candleland.
Yeah, Candleland.
See, no edits.
But it was
he just great lyrics, great execution,
Yes.
his delivery. He's just got a really beautiful voice.
He does.
I mean,
He has
how
a
many
really.
people do you say that about?
I
He's
mean,
got a
you can even
beautiful
say
voice.
that. So I did. I don't remember if on one time we maybe talked about the first. Or if it was just in one of our meetings, we talked about the first concert we went to, and my parents were young and they were really into music, so my mom would actually, it was the 70s, so it's fine. My mom would take me as a toddler to see
Steely Dan.
Sure.
That would be cool.
that would be cool. No,
Liberace.
That would be cool.
My mom took me to see Liberace.
like Alice Cooper
When I was
and
That's cool.
Kiss and stuff
That's
like that.
very
It's
cool.
yes, but this was thinking back it was '88. and this might have been the first concert that I went to. My friend Kirsten, I believe her mom drove us in her big old like Suburban and dropped us off. And so in '88, and it was really only a couple months before they broke up. So I actually saw the original lineup, and it was like right before Easter. I remember this place was packed. It was first show like where she dropped us off. So we were like, we're there by ourselves, you know. And
that's huge.
And the place was so packed that it was the first experience I had where if somebody in the crowd moves, you're going to move too.
Right.
You know, it's like so packed.
Sea of people.
And I remember there was because it was Echo and the Bunnymen, and it was right before Easter, and there was somebody dressed in one of those giant like Easter bunny costumes that you know when you sit and like in that in this.
It's kind of Donnie Darko,
but I was like
right?
16, and I was kind of like getting into my like my weird phase, you know, where it's like really appreciating, you know, weirdness.
Yeah, like,
so it was like,
but
it was just like, it was just the most fascinating thing. Plus, and now I look back because they broke up a couple months after that. I look back and I'm just like, how lucky I am.
I feel like such a lucky guy as far as new wave goes. I've seen The Cure 7 or 8 times. Never seen Echo the Bunnymen.
Really?
And I've had a few opportunities. We talked about this on an episode about. You know, being pissed off at past.
The ones that got away.
There's a couple that at times I got to see them and I didn't.
You did it.
I had something else I had to take care of.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, you get to see him, you should go see him.
Yes. Well, and
so
even now, so I started talking about that. You're talking about his voice, and so I've seen them a few times in the last like 5 or 6 years, and obviously now I think the original members now are just Ian McCulloch and Will Sargent, the guitarist, who I think is freaking amazing.
Amazing.
But his voice, I mean, the thing with his voice, so it doesn't have the same range as it did when he was like, you know, in his mid-20s. But he still has this presence and still the delivery, and it still has this quality to it that still makes it like there's nobody that can do that besides Ian McCulloch.
Because he's not an Iggy. Like, he's not jumping around. He's just there.
He's just,
and so his presence is his presence.
Exactly.
You know
he becomes
exactly.
Leonard Cohen.
Which, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, easier said than done. Like, I mean, like, you know, I have to jump around and try to impress people. I have to do somersaults and hurt my back to impress people. You know, like this guy's just there. He's just like that.
It's very.
There's a gravity to it when he comes up. You're like,
big time.
Yeah,
big
you're in the presence of
and so,
somebody. Yeah.
when I first, I mean, I was like 15, 16 when I first got into them, and obviously being a teenage girl, like I was more focused on Ian McCulloch. It's like, I'm gonna marry Ian McCulloch someday. I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna marry Ian McCulloch. You know, like big, like high school girl crush.
I mean, 120 Minutes probably created more artists than people like. I mean, the thing is, and growing up in New York, my parents didn't have they didn't want us to have that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I just was listening to a podcast the other day with Walter from Quicksand, and I loved hearing him talk about growing up in Queens and stuff. And he talked about a station that you've heard me talk about called 92.7 WLIR, Long Island Radio, which was my college, even in high school. And he was like, yeah, man. He's like, I will and always be a Cure and a Smiths band. Like, that's where I learned about Echo and the Bunnymen and these bands.
Right.
And I'm lucky enough to grow up in New York, and that 92.7. I learned about, I mean, it's the first time I heard U2 War, you know, like it just, it was the greatest, they called it postmodern.
Right,
you know, and,
right.
And it was like the greatest discovery in my life.
We always just called it like alternative, and I remember like 120 Minutes, and it was just, I mean, it blew my mind, and it shaped me because that was, having access to new artists that were, you know, it was just...
That were kind of underground.
Yeah, and I know that there was I don't remember the name of it, but there was a college station in Berkeley that, you know, we listened to, and they play like a whole bunch of like...
You're at ground zero right there.
So, you know, it was really a great area, like coming from, you know, Wisconsin to coming to like this culture and lots of different...
Madison was cool.
Yeah, well, this was West Bend, so it's kind of different.
But I mean, I think so. They even did a Doors cover for the Lost Boys.
They did.
Yep.
And I bet you they got a bunch of fans doing that. And the funny thing is I remember even saying, man, these guys are a much cooler version of the Doors. Like, and they have a bass player. Like,
they were huge Doors fans. Ian McCulloch was a huge Doors fan.
Listen, I don't hate anything or anybody in my life. I've heard a few Doors songs that I've accidentally sang along to. And been cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm not like a super huge.
They got some
Doors
jams,
fan.
that's for sure.
When I was saying that, like I like had a huge crush on Ian McCulloch, I didn't at the time focused on, and as I've gotten older, and I'm really appreciating more what the other musicians on this did, especially Will Sargent. Will Sargent, by the way, like one of his favorite albums is Marquee Moon. But yes, so
that makes perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense. And when I was listening to Marquee Moon, I was like, God, I feel like there's
elements
this, like elements of Echo and the Bunnymen, but it's because Will Sargent was.
Also, I just love the name Echo and the Bunnymen.
I mean, yeah, it's a great name. And there's like debates about how that came about. Like originally when they first played, they did not have a drummer, and later they got Pete DeFreitas to be the drummer.
Yeah.
But they say that like the drum machine that they were using was like nicknamed Echo. I don't know if it's never been confirmed. Like I think Will Sargent might have said that they were just a friend was throwing out dumb names or something. It was like whatever.
Like Big Black when they had they named their drum machine. Their drum machine was Roland.
Really?
So Roland on all the Big Black albums, it's like drums
Roland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Echo, there you go. Or then maybe they had a space Echo or something.
That's believable. But also, I mean, I love the fact that these stories just keep growing. Like, who
Right,
cares?
right. Like really, like I never
I'm
was
not
like,
gonna lose sleep over
why
it. I
are
don't
they?
need to know. Actually, I'd rather not know. You know?
Well, Will Sargent's guitar play, and you can even hear it on Crocodiles.
Sure.
It's very, very distinct, and it kind of like it evolves to be even more distinctive. Like he but he has it right from even Crocodiles, and they.
It's their sound. I mean, you could say the two of them are Echo and the Bunnymen sound.
Oh yeah, well, and
so it only makes sense that they're still together.
Yeah,
playing
Pete DeFreitas, after they broke up, they were going to get back together at some point because they were doing like electrofiction, like some things under that name.
I actually like that project.
Yeah. And then I guess he was in a motorcycle accident in England going, and
He's not able to drum.
Well, he's dead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah,
know
he passed
that.
away. And then I think Les Pattinson, the bass player, because it was originally the three of them and a drum machine. Les Pattinson, I think he just gave up.
It's just like
he gave up music. I think he moved to like Australia or something like that.
He was along the lines of, I had to look it up, and I'm going to try to pronounce it right, but he was along the lines of what Lowell Tolhurst was to Robert Smith in The Cure.
I see, yeah.
You know, basically, one of them might have came with an idea, the other person finished it to make the song, to execute that song. You know what I'm saying? Like without one, they're just as important as like a Strummer Jones. Like they needed that to complete these songs on this album.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I love Will Sargent's guitar playing because it has this certain quality, and you can hear
Definitely, I can hear the television.
They love moon. They love moon.
Yeah.
They love talking about moon. They love talking about moon.
They do, the Killing Moon, and so talking about this, it was produced by Ian Brody, who was in Big in Japan.
Oh wow!
And also their manager. Bill Drummond was in Big in Japan. Like it's just like very. And Big in Japan is interesting because I believe they were from Liverpool, but there's a lot of like famous like Budgie was in Big in Japan, right? And so was so was
from the Slits, from Susie and the Banshees.
Budgie, and so
Budgie's one of the best drummers ever.
There's somebody else. There's somebody else I can't remember that was like kind of like that went on to the Holly from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, right?
Holly Johnson.
Holly Johnson, I believe he was in Big in Japan.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
So it's like
that's crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, and they were very connected, and so was so Ian Brody then went on to like put out things under the name of The Teardrop Explodes.
Whoa, I didn't see. I have a few of those singles too,
Yes.
but I did not know that was that. You know that
The
was
same. Yeah, it's the same person that
Great
produced
name.
these. Yeah.
Great name. Yeah.
But yeah, they're which is really, really interesting. I mean, I like learning because whenever we do these, even if it's an album I'm really familiar with, like I dig deeper than I normally would, which is so fascinating.
And you go through that
like,
rabbit hole and learn about the backgrounds of different players, how they started.
Well, or even the cover. Well, like even the cover, like it was just like they needed some promotional shots and some videos, so they had like the certain budget, and the person doing, I believe, the I don't know if it's the promotional shots or the videos. It's just like, we need a certain atmosphere. We want snow, and they're like Iceland. So they did this all in Iceland, and a lot of like the promotional shots are in Iceland, which I think goes perfect with the kind of the feel of the album.
When you texted saying you wanted to discuss this album, like 15 minutes after, my brother in New York, Scotty, was like, man, listening to Porcupine, and shit holds up. He's like, I'm hanging out working, listening to it. It's great.
Right.
And I was like, I was just about to put it on. Like,
It's like really
so good.
Revisit this album
exactly.
right now.
And that's the best thing
for
about
the
this show.
yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, you are welcome. This is one of my favorite albums. I would say
This is your pick.
this is my pick.
The Cutter is what a good opener.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite Liverpool band, which is interesting because my mom took me to Liverpool for Beatles Week, and she's a huge Beatles fan.
I did the Beatles tour in Liverpool.
Did
It was
you?
fun, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, this is
Tavern.
Beatles Week, where people
Oh,
come
I
from
never-
all
I never
over
did that, no.
with a ton of Beatles cover bands. But I was like, my favorite Liverpool band is Echo and the Bunnymen.
That's cool, man.
But so I want to talk about some of the songs on
Yes,
this.
please.
Well, before we get into the songs, just a very quick thing about me is that, sorry, but
He
No,
always-
no,
about
no,
me.
for
He
sure.
always-
No, there's
he
three of
always-
us, and I have to
he
talk.
always- He always makes it somehow about him.
Sure.
Oh, you always
exactly.
make it all about you, Jay.
So my exposure with Echo and the Bunnymen was also through 120 Minutes, right? But I only knew their hits. Like I knew Killing
Right.
Moon.
Lips Like Sugar and Killing
Lips Like
Moon.
Sugar, yeah.
Two songs that have still is
massive
amazing hit,
songs,
and recorded beautifully.
So,
and
but
everything.
Yeah.
those two didn't,
But-
because they're from two completely different albums. Did
Of
they?
course.
Did either of them encourage you? Like, is that why you?
Well, the
bought,
thing
like,
is,
one of them?
I didn't listen to their albums as in
just
that
knew the
teenage
singles.
years. I
Okay.
knew their singles. I started getting their albums in my like adult years,
Okay.
right? And I know that they're amazing albums, and I can appreciate them
Right,
for
right.
sure. But because I didn't listen to them as a teenager, I feel like I missed out on a certain
Wow, okay.
love that you have for a
There's
band.
a certain connection that
is-
you have.
Yeah, I listened
Like-
to them probably, showing my age, in like 87, I was 17,
Yeah.
88.
So
Big-
that's
big band,
I think
big
there's a
band for
certain
me, you know?
there's a certain
Yeah.
time frame, there's a certain age where if you listen to a band at that age, it becomes part of
It has
you
a different
big time,
feel.
big
Yeah.
time. So and
Yeah.
I think there's actually in your brain development, it's
Yeah.
actually part of it. Like
Yeah.
it's something like 13 to 21 or something crazy like
Right.
that. Not to say that you can't love a band as an adult
Right.
and have a love for them, but there's a familial, they become
Well,
kind of part of your
It becomes like also nostalgic. Like
Yeah.
it's like it has
It's
a
part of your
connection, and it
time.
brings back certain feelings of wonder that you had when you were actually
Yeah.
growing as a person, and everything was kind of new. And which is so fascinating about music, because
Yeah.
like I'm glad that I'm finding albums or musicians that I didn't maybe notice or pay attention to when I was younger, but I
Sure.
do but it's great because it's new, and all those people that have loved it
Right,
don't
right,
have
right.
that same feel, but they also do have that connection that I'm never
Yeah.
going to have, because it's never going to be like my childhood. It's
I
never
wish-
going to.
I get
It's always
jealous.
kinda
I
like
get
Listen,
jealous and excited
yeah.
turning people on to music. You know,
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, man, I also am blown away about how you're gonna feel right now. Or hopefully, you'll feel how I felt.
right.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I'm like arm hairs. You're like, what? It's the
Yeah,
best
I mean,
thing
well,
ever, you
that's
know?
always like exciting to introduce somebody to something that they end up loving, but it's also.
But I always feel like there's certain bands like Echo and the Bunnymen that like, well, if I'd listened to them when I was at age 16, I would have another layer of
Next
appreciation
level
Right.
connection,
compared to just loving the albums. I love the albums
Right.
as they are, but I don't have that crazy
Right.
like fanaticism
Right.
with Echo.
I get
Yeah,
that, yeah.
I mean, I hate,
there's certain
I hate
bands
that I
like
didn't
that,
see him.
of
I
course.
had an opportunity to see him at Radio City Music Hall. What's wrong with me when I was a kid? Tears for Fears as well, and I'm mad that I didn't go to that.
Yeah.
I mean, what the heck is wrong with me? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, listen, it happens. I messed up. You
King,
know,
there you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jameson. Thank you, Trackside
Thank you,
Tavern.
Tracksign Tavern.
The ones that got away.
The ones that got away. Wait, but we got to talk about the songs
Yeah, yeah,
on this. I don't know if we're like.
let's talk about that.
Well, let's just say I think that The Cutter is one of the best songs. Like,
That's
you
the-
start out with The Cutter.
Well, that's the thing. And what a tough as nails name of a song. It's like
I
a
mean,
punk-
like,
it's a
yeah.
punk name. It's like I just picture a slasher, or like it's just so
Well,
cool.
this is something interesting. So the whole album was actually like I think it was Warner. I think it was Warner. Maybe it was Columbia. I don't remember exactly. I got my
the labels
glasses,
are
I could
different
see.
in England than they are in America, so it was really
Well,
fun to
whatever it was, the label was not, they did not like it. They did not think it was commercial
Sure,
enough.
sure.
So they sent it back and they actually did re-record it with Shankar?
Ravi Shankar?
No. He has like a very, very long first name.
I don't hear anything Ravi Shankar.
No, but
I was like, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Though. I
He
want to
does-
hear him do a cover of the Cutter.
He
you know,
does
like,
strings.
well.
But he, they had him redo it, and so I listened to the version of the Cutter without, or like what they had before without
Sure,
that,
sure,
and
the
it's
original
just
version.
not.
It's not the same.
I really do appreciate
So
what
for
is
the,
brought.
probably the first time
to-
in history,
It was the
music
right
executives
decision.
were smart.
Every
Yeah.
now and then
Wow,
they are,
interesting.
yeah.
'Cause I
well,
had
with
a
the
hard
one,
time believing
with the
that.
one AC/DC album that we did with Power Ridge, like I remember we were talking about
Thanks,
how
Matt.
they made. Thanks, Matt. They made they had them
They made
add
that-
like a radio friendly,
Yeah.
Which ended up being
Rock
my
and Roll
favorite.
Damnation,
Which
yeah.
ended up being my favorite song on the album.
And AC/DC, the way they were with like the vocals and everything, they can only be so radio friendly anyway. So like,
Right,
it
like
still
like,
worked for us.
Right.
you know?
Oh yeah. But I thought it was a good call, like because
Yeah.
I would have been sad if that wouldn't have been on it. I mean,
Well,
I
I want
wouldn't
to
have
hear
known.
that version, but I love this version of the Cutter. What an opener! What an insane.
I mean, it's
opener.
an amazing. Well, the funny thing is the two singles, actually, like album singles, are the Cutter and Back of Love,
Yeah.
which are the first two songs,
Right.
which is kind of like interesting. And honestly,
front-loaded.
I love the Cutter. My
Top heavy.
favorite
Yeah.
song,
Yeah.
though,
But
my
still great.
favorite song, which isn't actually on this album, but it was released, I think, a few months after the album, or like maybe 5 or 6 months after. It's Never Stop, which has a very
Yes.
same feel of the songs on this, very same the Cutter feel, but it
Yeah.
was a
the
non-album
B-side.
single. But
Right.
I always kind of, for some reason, consider it part of this album because it has the same feeling. It was put out as a non-album
Yeah.
single,
Right.
like recently,
Same
and year that it has.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot
I
of these
mean,
songs are.
the Cutter might have been like one of the first songs I heard off the record.
Oh,
It's probably my
wow.
favorite song on the
Yeah.
record. You know,
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, like
It's
talking
hard
about
to-
getting
hard
chill.
to
Like I
go
listen to
around,
that, and it's
yeah.
like.
Real
Yeah, like
goosebumps and-
just the way it makes you feel with especially the intro with
Yeah.
the strings and it sounds like it's
It's so
absolutely
funny
gorgeous.
because when I think of the song, now I got so much homework to do when I leave. Like driving, like I want to
Yeah,
listen to
I go to
these
listen
strings.
to
I want to listen to
the
these
demo
strings.
version.
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
hear all the different.
Yeah. Yeah, and find out that I don't remember the full name. I think he just goes by Shankar. I don't think it's
Very
the
cool.
same.
It's not Ravi Shankar.
No.
But that would be like
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
See, man, that's like dreams can come true.
Yeah.
Oh wow, man, we got 5 minutes left.
So this was
Crazy.
their third album.
Yes.
There's Crocodiles and Heaven Up Here.
Crocodiles
and
is
there's
probably
this.
a bigger album.
Crocodiles, actually, this is where Porcupines is where they got most of their the commercial success. This is
Yeah.
actually like whichever.
The thing about the bands from this era that I love, like I said, whether it's 120 Minutes or me, 92.7 to be LAR in New York. Other than that,
What did they have here? Like 99X? It was like 99X.
no, that was the 80s. They probably didn't have anything.
Now you would have had to been like album 88.
That's my point. So
yeah.
at best, if you're lucky at college radio,
Yeah, college
this is
radio.
my point. You think about 1989, like Depeche Mode, they sold out the Rose Bowl, 95,000 people. Bands like this were selling out huge places without like radio hits and stuff.
Sure.
It just like gives me so much faith in like music
Yeah.
back then. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? How amazing was that?
Well, I wanna
They
know-
were playing Radio City Music Hall. You know, what I mean, like, that's
I know,
insane.
it's insane. Well, it's insane because it's like they were actually
That's
like
not-
alternative
it's not-
or
it's
like
not the Rose Bowl, but
they,
it's like
but they were
probably 10,000
considered like
I love Radio City.
a lot of those things now. It's like
where I saw
they're like
Liberace.
smaller, like alternative to the things on the,
Little kid
and
from
they
New
were
Jersey,
still.
little kid from New Jersey via Amsterdam.
Well, I want to know what you guys is like. What were your
Cutter.
favorites?
The
The
Cutter.
Cutter.
Yeah.
The Cutter. Okay. Anything besides? I mean, I think the whole thing is like. I mean, I love In Bluer Sky. I think so much of it because they're all very very different, even though they have the same signature, the kind of like guitar or some. They have common
do what they
threads, but-
do. I always think about the Echo and the Bunnymen albums are very consistent. They really go like all of their albums.
I know.
Yeah, all their albums are like really very similar, and they're all very like up at a certain level of quality. They don't go all over the place, but they give you what you want out of the Echo of the Bunnymen.
Wow.
They give you like a very consistent type.
And
writing
the albums
and
have a
quality
wonderful flow to them.
and a good flow. Yeah.
Which these days, it's so sad. You're lucky if there's one good song on a record. There's no
Exactly.
flow.
Oh yeah,
There's
no,
a lot
very
of fluff and horrible
high
stuff,
quality, like through the
Well,
whole album.
Ian
That's why it's
McCulloch-
like I wish I had listened to them at age 16.
Ian McCulloch says
Hang
that
out,
this
have
is the
around a campfire one night. I'm going
right.
to tell you what I experienced when I was 17.
You go to
Ian
Cabinista.
McCulloch
Yeah,
actually
Cabinista.
thinks that this is
retreat,
like the
sure.
first. We should go to Cabinista. That this is the one that was the most personal for him,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
lyrics wise. So he said that sometimes it's hard to actually like sing those songs or play that songs because it is a little like oppressed, like because he.
put
I mean, some of it's
everything
pretty
into
dark,
it.
and
Yeah.
like putting his emotions
Thank
out
you,
there.
Ian McCulloch. for
Thank you, Ian
going
McCulloch.
there.
Thank you, Will Sargent, because
Thank you, Will
Oh,
Sargent.
geez, yeah.
Thank you, Echo and the Bunnymen. Whether you are a drum or a machine.
I think you're a drummer.
Thank you,
Thank
Echo.
you. Thank you to the 80s.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Echo.
Thank you, Cassy, for picking
Thank you, Pete
this.
DeFritas. Thank you, Leslie.
Jameson
You're welcome.
PBR. Man,
have
I
some
love these things.
Did
Oh,
you
I
lose your
did.
drink?
Did you-
I lost mine. That's fine.
You drank yours
cheers, guys.
already?
All right, well, we'll
You
cheers
know, it's
that.
listen. There's no edit.
I don't need it.
Couldn't. I got news for you. I don't need it. Kids, don't do this. I love these letters that we get, and this one is actually kind of awesome because I don't think about it much. But we come from where we're all products of our environment,
Yep.
whether we want to admit it or not. You know, I'd be like, my parents aren't artists, but they were in some way, and they somehow formed me. You know.
Yeah.
This is from Becky Johansson. Brian, Becky, we haven't heard from her in forever. Becky Johansson says, thank y'all. I think she's from Marietta, Georgia. Thank
Y'all.
y'all for what you're doing.
Yep.
What I want to know, Cassy, James, and Tom, is what were the favorite albums, songs, artists, musicians of your parents?
Yeah. What did they play?
Yeah.
Right? Like what did they play in the car while you were on road trips?
And I don't think
What
about
did
it
they
often.
play
and
in the house?
And at this time in
their
our
hi-fi
life and in
system?
my life, I need to think about my parents more.
Yeah.
Overall, I know that they did the best with us, you know. So I know for me, and they're actually kind of like controversial artists because I hear a lot of people say I don't like them because they're too big or they were too famous or there's better artists than them. But it's about a sentimental mood. So for me on Sundays, my mom would give me $1 to go to the milk farm down the block in Queens and buy a huge round loaf of Italian bread.
Awesome.
That was it, $1, and bring it back. Show them my age. And all my parents played in the house was Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and Frank Sinatra. That's
Awesome.
it. It's like there was no other artist.
Big three.
You gotta understand, my mom was an immigrant. She came to America. Those were big artists.
Right,
whatever,
yeah.
You know? But like, so I'll always have a special place in my heart for all three of them.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I listen to them all the time, but if I'm driving and I'm driving through states and I travel up for work and I hear that stuff, I crank it. And I
Yep.
sometimes get teary, you know.
Yeah. Reminds you back of those
What
days.
about you?
I think of my parents were really into the Bee Gees
Awesome.
That is awesome.
and the Carpenters.
Great documentary.
Awesome.
And
Both of them
very
awesome.
awesome.
It was
Both
like-
of them awesome.
A lot of my sense of melody, just two insanely melodic artists, you know,
I love the Bee
that
Gees.
that they just could write
And the
a
Carpenters,
melody like
really.
somebody else. Like
And
I look
Karen
at
Karen
Carpenter's a
Carpenter.
sick drummer.
I mean, she is an
Amazing
amazing drummer.
and just
And her
the
voice is-
songwriting. I'm impressed even as an adult knowing what I know about music is when I hear certain Bee Gees songs, for example, like these hits. There's like hooks in them that could have been like 7 different songs.
There's
They
hooks
put
in
Have
the
you seen?
side
Have you seen
hooks.
that? It came
And
out
the
recently. I don't
documentary's
remember.
so
Yeah,
good.
the
I
one
need
that
to
came
see
out
that.
recently.
I need to
Yes,
see
it
that.
is.
It's
Oh,
sad,
it
man.
is.
What?
I just really
But-
don't understand why they didn't. I mean, they did great for that
Sure.
disco period, and then it's like pretty much everybody. But did you know that like I think it was Barry, right? He wrote songs for.
He wrote Islands in the Stream.
I mean, he wrote for like
yeah.
big stars,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. He's a bad-
oh.
Barry Gibb is a badass.
amazing
mean-
sense of melody. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy can,
Hooks inside the
like I
hooks.
say, they have like a song where you listen, you're like, this could have been 7 hit songs. This could have been amazing.
What about
Yeah.
your parents? You mentioned
It's
the
very
Beatles
much
earlier.
in-
Oh yeah,
What-
my
what-
mom was definitely you know, my parents, my parents separated when I was like very young, but my dad listens to just a wide variety. He has really amazing taste in music. He listens to a wide variety. My mom, definitely her favorite was the Beatles. Like I saw all the Beatles movies. She has all the if you needed something to get her for a holiday, you get her something Beatles themed. So, which is great because when I just went down there like a few weeks ago, she was just like, yeah, I'm getting rid of all her records or something.
Mom.
I love my.
She's awesome.
Well, especially now because she's giving me all her records, and I'm like, so all the Beatles and all
Love
that.
your
And
mom
she,
even more.
I remember the first time I ever heard of like anything David Bowie. I was like really young. I was in elementary school, and I remember seeing the cover of Diamond Dogs. Like she has great taste in music too.
Awesome.
I remember seeing the cover of Diamond Dogs, but that's kind of freaky for like a little kid.
Oh yeah.
Well,
You know, like
David
this-
Bowie,
Mental
whether you're a kid or an adult,
morphing,
was not a human. He was an alien.
Yeah, he was an
that
alien.
awesome. Man, these things just fly by.
They do.
Thank you guys, Trackside Tavern,
Thank you,
you.
Trackside.
PBR, Jameson. Man, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for picking that record.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you, Echo.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Echo and the Bunnymen.
Thanks.